Hi everyone, it's Pablo here. If you want to learn Zephyr RTOS in a practical way without getting lost in a complex documentation or vendor-specific tutorials, this course is for you. In this video, I will show how Zephyr really works, from project structure to running code on a real board. Welcome to Zephyr RTOS Essentials. This course is divided in 4 lessons. In the first lesson, we'll see what Zephyr is, how the ecosystem is organized, and how a basic application is built and executed. In the lesson 2, we will learn how hardware is described, how features and drivers are enabled or disabled, and how you can adapt the application to different boards without changing application code. In the lesson 3, our goal is navigating in some APIs, drivers, and subsystems. Finally, in the lesson 4, we're gonna combine all the concepts to get build a real application. Let's go to the next slide. When we were talking about the brief of the history, Zephyr didn't start all at once. Before Zephyr, there were some RTOS projects such as Virtuoso and Rocket RTOS that later evolved into what we have today. The important milestone came in 2016 when the Zephyr project was officially launched under the Linux Foundation. Um, since then, Zephyr has grown into a stable, open, and widely adopted RTOS, supporting many architectures and real products. So, what is Zephyr? Zephyr is a modern, small, and scalable RTOS designed for real embedded products, not just demos or academic projects. One of the key features is that it's very modular. You only enable what your application really needs. This keeps the firmware small, organized, and easier to maintain. Other important thing is related the portability. The same application can run on many different boards because hardware details are abstracted. This allows to move from one vendor to another with the minimal code changes. Finally, Zephyr is open source and maintained by the Linux Foundation. This means that we have long-term support and a contribution from many companies and developers. All of these points together make Zephyr a strong choice for professional embedded development. A lot of companies like Intel, Nordic, NXP, ST, Google, Meta, and other companies contribute to this process. In addition to that, Zephyr has a large global developer community with thousands of developers collaborating worldwide. From a technical perspective, Zephyr supports multiple CPU architectures, including ARM, RISC-V, x86, Extensa, and Arc. So, why Zephyr is very rich? Zephyr is built on a modern and modular kernel architecture. In practice, this means you don't get a fixed kernel with everything enabled. For example, if your application only needs GPIOs and timers, you don't need to compile network, file system, or USB support in this case. Zephyr also uses a powerful configuration system based on kconfig, CMake, and West. This combination gives you fine control over what is go in your firmware without manually editing build scripts or driver code, for example. Other point, it's related to connectivity. Zephyr supports Bluetooth, network, USB, and others designed to work across different platforms. Um, Instead of hard coding hard details in the application, we can describe this using device tree files. This enable portability across boards and vendors without changing application code. Zephyr integrates the MCU boots, enabling security boot and a firmware updates workflows. When you are talking about the safety and security, Zephyr includes memory protection, user mode, stack overflow detection, and other safety mechanisms. Um, Talking about the license, Zephyr uses the Apache 2.0, which is permissive and suitable for both open source and commercial products. And finally, Zephyr is product development ready, offering LTS long-term support releases that provide stability and maintenance over time. When you look to this picture, we have Zephyr Proxy in the center of the image, for example, and inside this we have the Zephyr OS where everything is layered. We have the kernel and the low-level drivers. These layers handles scheduling, threads, memory, power management, and direct access to the hardware. For example, in these kernel drivers. In the OS service and low-level APIs, uh, in this layer, this including logging, file systems, IPC, network, and device management, for example. In the bottom, we have the application services, uh, where we have the applications that interacts with the system in a portable and a standardized way. Outside of the Zephyr project, we have the Zephyr community that provides the third-party modules, libraries, and integration extend the ecosystem without modifying the core of the operational system. For example, Zephyr application is built around a few key files. The first one is the procconf prj.conf. In this file, you enable logging, Bluetooth, or a specific driver by setting configuration options that I will show in our demonstration. We have the CMake list txt that defines the application itself. It tells the building system which source files to compile and how the application is linked with the Zephyr. In the main.c, we have the main logic that contains, for example, some threads, some interaction with drivers, and define the application behavior itself. In the optional, we have the app overlay. That's this file that extend the boards for device tree. For example, you can use it to enable a LED, change a DPIO pin, and activate a peripheral and disable or enable by default on your board, for example. And together, all these files keep configuration, hardware description, and application logic clean and separate. For building our application, we have the West coordinates the entire workflow. With a single command, this can manage the project configuration, triggers the build, and flashes the firmware to the board. Behind this OS coordination, several tools. For example, CMake. In the CMake configuration, CMake configures the process, selecting, for example, the toolchain, board application, and all required modules. The keyconfig determines which kernel features, driver, and subsystem are enabled. In the device tree, we can describe our hardware, the hardware merging board definition and the application overlay and generate C headers automatically, for example. Finally, Ninja compiles all links the kernel drivers, libraries, and the application, then produce the final firmware image. West is the entry point where everything else happens automatically. And in the end, we can have our executable file to downloading and flashing in our board. Now we'll switch for the demonstration, and we can check all the concepts in a real application for a basic project. So, before we start our building application, I want to show quickly a getting start process. The focus of this lesson is not cover the Zephyr installation because this can change into different operational systems. Like here we have the process for Linux, Ubuntu, Mac OS, and Windows. One important thing to comment that after you install West using the pipe install West, for example, you can install the Zephyr SDK that contains the toolchains, compilers, linkers to the Zephyr. Once you have Zephyr installed, now let's go to the code. For this lesson, we're gonna using the Blink a LED example in the basic folder. Let's take a look in CMake list txt. First of all, we are set the minimal required CMake version. After that, we are using this find package to locate and load the Zephyr build system using Zephyr underscore base. We needed the Zephyr underscore base so that's making knows where Zephyr is located and can automatically integrate the kernel, drivers, configuration, and hardware into the application. In this line, we are basically defining the application project name. Finally, we are add main.c in the source file of the application, in this case. Now, let's take a look in main.c. Um, First of all, we are importing the Zephyr kernel in the for sleep and the loop, and over here we are adding the GPIO driver. In this line, we are setting the 1 second for waiting to the toggling process. In this line, we get the LED defined into device tree, where the code can be portable between some boards. Uh, in this line 21, we are basically creating a structure that contains ports, pins, and flags for the LED. And when you go to the main function, in the line 28, we check if the GPIO is ready to use, and if everything is correct, we can set the LED as output and enable this LED. In the main loop, basically, we are toggling the LED and print the states in a terminal. That's it. That is called is doing. And now let's go to the building process. For this building process, we are using the West build. Basically, in this part, this starts the Zephyr building process. West coordinates make, kconfig, device tree, and Ninja to compile the application as we saw in our slides. The next step is to force upstream to clean every building process. And for this, we are using this command. Now we uh, uh, gonna specify the board, the board that we are targeting our application. For this, I will pass this command with the board that I'm using for this test. It's a development kit from Nordic. And now I will specify the SOC. And in the end, we are specify the core process for this one because it's important to pass when you have multi-core devices in this case. And now I will call the application. Bling. Let me check if everything is correct. Okay, now we have our executable, our Zephyr.elf generated for into the build Zephyr board. And now let's flash our board. In my case, my board has JLink debug integrated, and I can use this approach. Now I have a LED blink here, and let me turn on my camera. Just a second. Video cam. Now I hope that you can see the LED blink. After that I will flash. And the next step is working in prg.conf to enable the ward to see this LED status. Let's go there. So for print this LED state in the terminal, basically we need to create some configurations in the prg.conf. Let's go to do this. Activate the config console, config UART console, for example, and config log. And okay, we have all the things configured. I think this one it's not necessary for this test. And let's rebuild this. And now let's
refresh this board. And for see this content in the terminal, I'm using the PicoCon. Let's check the connections that I have here. I'm using this ACM1, and I think that I have saved this one. Yes. And now we can check the terminal status and this LED in the camera. So we finished this lesson. If you enjoy it, like this video and subscribe in my YouTube channel. See you in the lesson 2. Bye bye.